The rope burned into her skin, not sharp pain, but the slow, cruel kind that sinks in and stays. Her shoulders shook, not from fear, but from how tired her body had become. Silas Crowley stepped back and studied her like a finished task. He didn't look angry anymore. That part was done. Next time, he said calmly, you'll remember who you belong to. Then he checked his pocket watch and said he had business in town, because he was sure nobody out here had the nerve to cut her down. A few men watched from their horses, far enough to keep their hands clean, close enough to enjoy the lesson. No one spoke. In Dodge City, Kansas, silence was how people survived. Silas mounted his horse, spat into the dirt, and rode off with his men, leaving the frame standing, and the woman tied to it like something forgotten. Out here, that's how people die. Not with a gunshot, but with everybody choosing to look away. The sound of hooves faded, and sometimes they circle back just to see if you're still breathing. The heat pressed heavier. Emma's vision blurred. She thought of water. She thought of her mother's voice, a sound she could barely remember. She wondered if this was how people disappeared without ever leaving town. Then another sound reached her. Slow hooves, one horse. A lone rancher crossed the open grass, his pace steady, his shadow stretching long beneath him. Caleb Hart hadn't planned to stop. He'd seen worse things in his life, but something about the shape hanging against the sky made his chest tighten. He dismounted without a word and walked closer. The closer he came, the clearer her face became beneath the dirt and bruises. And something in him faltered. His stomach dropped. Because this wasn't just familiar, it was personal. He'd seen that face before. Not here. Not like this, but somewhere far back, in a time he'd buried and never spoke of. Caleb cut the rope. The frame creaked once, almost relieved. Emma collapsed forward, her body folding into his arms before she could stop it. Her breath came sharp and broken as his hand slid under her side to steady her. Don't. It still hurts there. The words weren't accusation. They were warning, the kind a person gives when pain has taught them what comes next. Caleb froze, then shifted his grip instantly. Careful. Protective. Like he already knew exactly how much she could bear. He'd learned that kind of careful from tending his sick mother, lifting her without making the pain worse. Her head rested against his chest. Her face turned slightly. And in that instant, with the sun burning above them and the town pretending not to see, Caleb understood why her face would not leave his mind. Why did this broken woman look exactly like the girl he'd loved and lost so many years ago? Caleb didn't carry her far. Just far enough that the town could no longer pretend she didn't exist. He laid her down in the shade near a low bend of the river, where cottonwood leaves whispered and the air felt a little less cruel. The Arkansas River moved slowly beside them, brown and tired, like it had seen too many things and kept them all. Emma stirred once, her breath shallow, her fingers twitching as if she expected pain to return the moment she moved. Caleb knelt beside her, awkward at first, like a man who had spent too many years alone. I'm going to cut the rest, he said quietly. You tell me if it hurts. She nodded, eyes still closed. That nod did something to him. Trust like that didn't come from nowhere. He worked slowly, careful not to pull at her skin. And while he did, he noticed things that didn't belong to a woman who deserved this. The old bruises, the healed scars beneath newer ones, the way she flinched before he even touched her. Has he been doing this long, he asked. Emma hesitated. Then she gave a small, tired shrug. Long enough, she said. She tried to sit up and failed. Caleb steadied her again, gentler this time, like his hands had already learned her. As he adjusted the torn fabric at her collar, something slipped free and landed against her chest. Boom! A small locket, worn thin, cheap brass. When the lid popped open, there was a tiny, faded photo inside, and Caleb suddenly couldn't hear the river anymore. Only his own heartbeat. Not a name, not a note, just a face. And the face was her face, younger, cleaner, smiling, but the same bones, the same eyes. Caleb froze. He knew that locket. Not this one exactly, but one just like it. Inside his memory, a younger woman laughed near a river that looked just like this one. She wore the same stubborn chin, the same soft mouth that never quite learned how to hide sadness. Your necklace, he said, trying to sound steady. Where did you get it? Emma lifted a hand and closed her fingers around it. My mother, she said. She gave it to me when I was little. Said it was the only thing she kept when she left home. Caleb swallowed. Left home. What did you call your mama? Caleb asked. Emma looked at him now. Really looked. Rose, she said. Rose Callahan. Callahan was her name before Misham. Emma said. And the way she said it told Caleb there was a whole story she hadn't survived for free. The river kept moving. The leaves kept whispering. But inside Caleb, something old and buried sat up and drew breath. Rose had left Dodge City more than 25 years ago. Caleb's voice dropped. Rose had a birthmark on her left shoulder, shaped like a crescent moon. Tell me I'm wrong. Emma blinked, confused, then nodded once. She did. My mama used to cover it with her hand when she bathed. He swallowed the old memory like grit. Rose had vanished without a word, and he'd spent years pretending it didn't hurt. He looked at the woman beside him, bruised and trembling, and saw the past staring back with different eyes. Older pain. New damage. Emma watched his face change and felt fear rise again. You know that name, she said softly. Caleb didn't answer right away, because if he did, everything would change, and before he could decide whether to speak, a distant sound reached them from the direction of town. Hooves. More than one. And if Emma carried Rose's face and Rose's birthmark, then whose blood was she carrying too? The sound of hooves grew louder, then split. Some turning back toward town, others cutting along the river. Caleb didn't wait to see which were coming for them. We're going into Dodge City, he said. Doctor first. Emma hesitated. Her body wanted to run. Her heart wanted to hide. But Caleb was already lifting her carefully, like she weighed nothing at all. And for the first time in a long while, she let herself believe someone else could carry the trouble. The town looked the same as always. Dust, the porches, men pretending not to notice a bruised woman leaning on a rancher's arm. Inside the small doctor's office, the air smelled of alcohol and boiled cloth. Emma winced as the doctor worked, but Caleb stayed close, his shadow steady on the wall. When it was done, the doctor shook his head. Emma sagged like her bones turned to dust, and Caleb caught her before she hit the floor. She needs rest, he said, but rest wasn't something Silas ever allowed, and Caleb knew it. And she needs to not go back to where she came from. They stepped outside. That was when Silas found them. He stood across the street near the saloon, smiling like he'd just won a hand of cards. Thought you could steal what's mine. He said loud enough for half the town to hear. Emma stiffened. Caleb felt it instantly.